Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very special episode of Kill Me Now. Like a very, I'm going to say intimate. I'm going to say just, this person who I will announce in just a few moments. Those people who you sort of meet and at a young age or younger, and there's just this special connection. And then you go on with your lives and do different things, but you never really don't connect. You always connect. You always at some point connect. And then, your lives change. And even though you have not spent a lot of time with this person, you feel even closer to them and protective of them and just, and you love them unconditionally. And this is a person whom I love unconditionally.
Now I'm going to cry at the beginning of the interview.
And we've been dishing about everyone but right before that, but now she's going to cry. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable, the unbelievable, the talented Maddie Corman is here. Maddie Corman. That's the Jew bell. So Maddie.
That's the Jew bell?
Yeah, anything remotely Jewish gets a ring.
Fantastic.
Because as you know, I'm a Jew. So Maddie is now, we're going to talk about that later because, she's now doing an off-Broadway show, a fantastic off-Broadway show called Accidentally Brave, which we'll get into later. And she's been nominated for 2 awards already. And it's only been
I know, it feels like it's been a long time, but we opened.
Maybe 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, we only opened a couple weeks ago and we started preview 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I just agreed with you, but yes.
It is. It's pretty unbelievable. She's in the theater where I did my show, The Judy Show. My Life is a Sitcom, and it's a great theater. It's the Darryl Roth Theater. So if you're coming to New York, how long is the show?
We run till July 13th.
No, the minutes.
Oh, 90 minutes.
90 minutes. Take 90 minutes out of your life.
Yeah.
And hear an incredible story. An incredible story that is told in the most incredible way. You're so fucking good.
Thanks, Judith. I heard you laughing in the audience, and it really made me happy, actually.
Oh, you said something, and I was like, why am I the only one laughing at this? It was so funny.
People don't always think they can laugh at my show.
I know. No, I had to. And I thought, oh, my God, I'm so loud. But then also your father's phone went off, and I was like, thank God it's your father.
Can you believe it?
Do you know this is opening night.
Opening night.
Yeah.
I'm like, whose phone is ringing on opening night?
But you did you were good because you made and the phone. You did a really,
Well, who knew it was my father, except later he has said this story. My friend Jonathan Mark Sherman, who's a playwright, went up to him, Mazel Tov, at the party.
Yeah.
And Sherm went up to my dad, who he knew his phone had gone off, and he said, that was Maddie's mom. That was your late wife calling. She didn't want to miss opening night. And my father has used that line, I'd say 173 times since then. He loves.
But who called?
I don't know. Because he's sticking with his story, which is.
Oh, okay. That's good.
He doesn't know how to use a phone. I mean, he knows how to use a phone, but he doesn't know how to
And he could be a lawyer.
He is a lawyer.
Yeah, I know.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's ding. Okay, so let's start at the beginning, Madeline.
Okay.
So
our beginning or my beginning?
No, your beginning.
Oh, God.
The beginning of your life.
Oh, God.
Madeline, what's your middle name? I forgot.
Arby. It's a terrible middle name. I hate my middle name.
Like Arby's? Like, was Arby's around when you got your
No,
middle name?
I am not named after the fast food chain. My father had a favorite uncle, and my mother was the best person, but this was a mistake.
Right.
Madeline Arby. And when I was little, I wanted to change it to Madeline Barbie because I liked that
Oh,
better.
that's excellent.
Yeah, then I
Who
learned-
knew you were a straight
then I
white
got-
girl?
Then I got
Okay.
into Barnard and
Yeah,
went
now
off
forget
the
it.
table. Yeah, you haven't heard it because I honestly never say it. I don't know if my kids even know.
How do you spell it? A-R-B-Y?
A-R-B-I.
Oh,
I
at
mean,
least it's
it's
not
so
A-R-B-Y.
I know. but
Like,
it's
what
just
is
weird.
that? What's your Hebrew name?
Michal.
Oh, Michal for the Jew. All right, so Madeline was born in 1970. And on the same day as one of my best friends and someone I can't stand. So
I'm somewhere in between.
so
those
you're in
things.
between. And you were born in Manhattan, actually, right?
Yes.
Which hospital?
It was called Doctor's Hospital.
Oh, yes. It's gone now. Is it Lennox? No, it's something
One of
else.
those East Side.
Yeah. Hmm. Oh, fancy. And
No,
then,
my parents were not fancy.
yes.
but-
And your mother, I think, was a teacher?
Yeah,
Is
she
that-
taught special ed. I mean, they didn't even
I mean,
call
there's
it
where
special
it
ed
starts.
then.
There's where it starts, ladies and gentlemen. So your mother, your beautiful mother, her name was?
Irene.
So Irene.
Yeah.
And your father, who was Michael, who's a lawyer, have Madeline. And then did you move to Westchester before your brother Noah was born?
Yes. We moved when I was 2.
Do you remember the apartment you were in?
Not really. I mean, there are photos, but
Right,
I don't
right.
really. I remember, and this could be apocryphal, but I remember marching in the Macy's Day Parade, not because I was asked to, but
Right.
I just kind of remember being in my little snowsuit and kind of taking off. That's one of my early memories.
Oh.
But that could be because that's a favorite story that my mom always told. That I was just
okay.
like, there's a parade, I'm going.
Right, right,
I
right.
must be in it, which, and now I'm doing a one-woman show.
Yeah.
Clearly she knew
Same
something.
thing. So did you lived on the east side?
I think, yes, the east side. I mean, I really
Whatever.
barely
My
remember.
family's from the west side. Anyway, so you moved to Westchester.
Yeah.
And then the good Noah was born.
Yes. He's about 4.5, 5 years younger.
Okay, I'm just going to explain to everyone what the good Noah
yeah.
means.
We
So,
all-
my neighbors Marjorie and Cy. I should just do like 100 bells right now. All right, Marjorie and Cy have 2 daughters, Lizzie and Lucy, and Lizzie. These are my neighbors. They're my kids' godparents. I'm just doing this for this thing. Okay. Anyway, so Lizzie was in college. Was she in college or in high school?
I feel like it was college.
College,
if we were
yeah.
setting them up.
And she was a bad girl. She went to Tufts. She was really smart.
Yeah,
she's now a doctor.
That crazy
Yeah,
Lizzie at
she's
Tufts.
now a doctor.
Ooh.
But she liked the bad boys. And so they would go away for the summer to Old Lyme. And there was a guy there.
That seems very not.
Yeah, I
ringing
know.
the bell.
Oh, sorry. And they would go there, and there was a guy, Noah, there, who was like, a local, like, you know what I'm talking, burnout. And Lizzie was like so into him. And then they got back, and I was like, Lizzie, you got to meet Maddie's brother, Noah. And they went on a date. And I don't know what happened, but now that the old one is the bad Noah, and so we call Noah the good Noah.
My
And
Noah's
it's
the good Noah.
it's never.
And it does suit him. I mean, he happens to be a very
He's like
good.
the nice. He has a halo over his head.
He really does.
I know. Just do they ever fight or anything?
He and his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, she's kind of got a halo over her head.
I can't
too.
fucking take it.
I know.
What? How come I can't be like that? Is he on antidepressants?
No.
I mean, shit.
Unless he's just not telling me.
Well,
But
of
I don't
course
think
he would
so.
tell you.
He would
Okay.
tell me.
So
I'm not either, but. I'm also
that's one of our
depressed.
questions at the end. We
Oh.
always ask at the end because we're very pro mental
I
health.
think that's a really good question to ask and a really good thing to talk about.
Yes, we always talk at the end about your mental health and how you deal with it. Okay.
I'm happy to talk about my mental health beginning, middle, and end.
Oh,
this
good.
Interview.
That's great. Take care.
Because it may
may come up.
It may be different at different points.
So you and you had like a great life in West, right? It was like
Yeah, I mean, I had a good childhood, definitely.
Were you popular in school?
I don't think I was, but sometimes I'll tell stories and my kids will go, well, but you were at a party. I mean, you know,
Right.
I didn't feel popular. I also was. I grew up at a time when if you were into the arts, there weren't that many outlets, not like now. My school was very small. It was a public school, but it was a small school.
Right.
And if you were on a sports team, you had something to do.
Right.
And I think there was a pep rally where I was the only one sitting because really everyone was on some sports team. My school
and
was
that's the
small.
most important thing is sports.
It was
and it
very
still
important.
is, yeah. And
And-
that's why we're taking education, theater, music, the arts education, visual arts out of the schools
Yeah.
because we don't need that.
Yeah, and
we
kids
really don't.
like me would have been even
Right, and you
worse.
would have,
So
fucking ridiculous.
So
All right.
I was not athletic, which meant a certain kind of life. And
Right.
I
can
love-
relate to that.
I know, and you were, I know because, you know, we're friends, but I know also just being friends with you for the time I have been, how many people have asked if you play basketball.
I
And
know.
you're not even a child. Like it's
Right.
just,
Oh, no, it's always.
and, you know, you're clearly have a profession.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
and
can
it's
only
all about
imagine.
sports. Oh, please.
So,
But I had someone say to me, you know, because my son Ben is
Yeah.
6'8" and he plays basketball. And like, I have literally had people say, wow, he's tall. It's a good thing he's a boy. And I'm like, I'm standing right here, you asshole.
yeah, people are horrible.
Oh, they're fucking ass. All right. So you're in a small school, you're
in a
into the
small
arts,
school.
but you were a child actor.
I did start pretty young. My mother,
Irene.
was not into me being a child actor necessarily. So I really, really wanted it, but I also really wanted a horse, you know, and she said, let's just. And it
That
was
is so not Jewish.
It-
Okay, go ahead.
we had a house in Woodstock, also very not Jewish. It was kind of like a little cabin.
Right.
Not a cabin, a cottage.
Right.
But anyway, there were horses that we could ride at a stable nearby, and I was into that. That was the most athletic I ever was. And she was kind of like, okay, well, let's see what you like when you turn 13, because I don't want to be one of those moms who's taking my 6-year-old to do something.
Right.
And who knows what you were going to like in
And
2
that's
weeks.
fucking expensive.
It is expensive, and also she had another kid. You know,
Right.
I have
The
my
good Noah. Yeah.
who of course never wanted for anything, would be like, go ahead, leave me. But
And he's so handsome. All right, go ahead.
and he works with kids who stutter. You know, that's
I
his
know.
job.
I
So
can't
it's
take
just-
it. Okay.
Anyway, and he's the greatest uncle and
Oh,
brother and everything. So anyway, when I was growing up, I really, really did love acting and singing. And my mom was kind of like, I think you're good, but let's really check this. You know, let me
Right.
vet this.
right.
So she put me in some local classes. I did some community theater.
Right.
And as I started to get the leads in these things, she was like, all right.
So what was your first part?
Well, my first part was in first grade. I was the Foolish Molar in The Foolish Molar.
Wow. And
Yeah.
was this about teeth?
It was. It was about a tooth that was foolish and didn't brush and I think floss. I can't remember if there was flossing involved.
So
but
there was a big message.
it was a big message, and I really wanted. I remember wanting. Do you
Right.
remember? Did you feel like this? Like I remember not being competitive about sports because I was never going to be great at it, but I remember really wanting to be the Foolish Molar.
I remember wanting, I don't know how old, to be on stage, like a live stage.
Did you
Not
go
like,
see shows when you were little?
yeah, my mother grew up in Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
and loved the theater. Oh, Ruth. And loved the theater.
And you know I love Ruth.
Yes, and yeah, she would take me to shows. When we would go to the big and tall women's shoe shop, which was called. Have I discussed this before? It was called Tall Gal Shoes. It was across from the New York Public Library and I think Madison Avenue side. Yeah, at 40 whatever, and we would go and then maybe see a show and then we'd go home. And
Did you stop and get that was us without the big and tall shoes and adding Gray's papaya hot dog.
Okay, Maddie, how long have you known my mother?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Kosher. Okay, so you get into the Molar.
So I get into the Molar. I start. I'm a decent singer.
Okay, do you turn into the cunty, like, I'm in theater and,
No, I was only 6, so I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
so.
you weren't.
And also,
Were the girls nice? Was it cliquey?
this was first grade.
Right.
Like I said, there wasn't really a theater crowd to be a part of.
Right.
And if there was, they certainly were not the cool kids.
Okay.
Then there was the Annie phenomenon
Oh,
that I
yes.
begged to be a part of. And my mother was like, I don't like lines. We're not going to go stand, there were all these open calls at the
Yes.
time. And I lived in Westchester. I grew up in Westchester. So we did go to see shows.
Right.
There was, although at the time,
Really?
not so much.
Wow.
One temple, now there's
There's
a
400,
lot.
yeah.
Rabbi Eddie came to my show the other night.
No.
So nice. He wrote me the most beautiful letter after. Those rabbis. Anyway.
I just want to say to you,
No,
I
he's
loved your show.
No, he's
The
kind of like
feeling it. Is he the one that
He's
doesn't wear a yarmulke?
Yeah, he's very
He's
groovy.
out of his mind. Like, if you're going to do one thing, like a yarmulke, that's like basic. That's just basic. You walk into a synagogue, you cover your head. Like, the fact that he wears a tallis and doesn't wear a yarmulke, I'm giving
Wait,
this.
how do you know him? Oh,
Because we've gone to didn't his kid?
No, I think this is a different.
Oh, all right. All right, whatever. I meant
Cut that out.
this other person is a rabbi and in the shul doesn't
Oh
wear
no,
a
he wears a rabbi. He wears
Oh,
a
all
rabbi.
right.
He wears
All
a
right.
yarmulke
I take
in
that
the
back.
shul.
Okay.
But when he comes to see off Broadway, he's hipster.
Does he come out? Is he gay?
No,
Oh.
Maddie, the play was, it was.
this sounds nothing like
Okay.
Rabbi Eddie.
Anyway.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
So now the Annie phenomenon, which I have to say, I was 13 or 12 when it came out. And my mother bought one of my good friends for her bat mitzvah tickets for me and her to go see Annie.
And who is your Annie? The original? Did you see Andrea McCarty?
I think I did.
Because my Annie was Allison Smith, who's now one of my best friends. Weirdly, but at the
Wow.
time we didn't.
Did you see the documentary about Annie?
Yeah, amazing.
Have you ever seen it? Oh my God. What's it called?
Day After Tomorrow? Is that what it
Yeah,
is? Something
it's about all the Annies and what happened to them and how fucking shitty they were treated. It's
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
and,
okay.
and then going on tour. And,
Yeah.
Well, think about it. Think about these kids now on Broadway. They usually do 3 shows a week. And
Yeah.
they have like 3 different
Right.
actors.
Yeah,
playing.
I know.
You know,
Did that equity law come from Annie, you think?
No,
Oh.
probably it was after that. But these kids, my friend Allison was, doing 8 shows a week and going to sing at, some
Right.
bar mitzvah also.
Right.
There was no law. Nobody
Right.
was doing anything. So anyway, my mother would not let me do that. So I started at like 13, 14, just kind of past that. And I did start working a lot.
Immediately.
Yeah.
So you were the right age for one of the kids in Annie.
I was.
Yeah.
I mean, and she just wouldn't.
But
have
I
it.
feel like
She was right.
I think she was right. Now I have to talk about your mother. Your first acting job was at 14. This was on TV.
Yeah.
You did an after school special. I Want to Go Home.
Yes.
What was that about? I remember those fucking after school specials.
And it was such a big deal that I got an
Yeah.
after school special. This one was Lindsay Krause played my mom, and she and my dad were
Is
divorced.
Lindsay,
No.
okay.
But Seth Green played my brother.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we were living with our dad, and there was a messy divorce, and then our mom came and kidnapped us. And we had to change. We had changed our hair color 3 times.
Right,
we lived in the bad parts of town.
Right.
And she told
Did you
us.
live in a motel or anything?
I think we just lived on the Lower East Side.
Okay.
I think that was about as
yeah.
racy as it got, which is like
Which was horrible in the 80s, by the way.
yeah, but not that hard.
I know.
But I think it was like we're on Leroy Street now. Oh no,
Right.
And then my friend saw my picture on the back of a milk carton and was like,
Oh,
"Your
so
dad's
this was
looking for you." And,
right. Wait,
so-
can we just explain to the young listeners what an after school special
Oh,
was?
yeah.
So we didn't have phones and fucking computers and stuff. So
Or
we
cable.
Right, nothing. And so for us, the after school special was like, okay, your parents aren't home. They both work. So here's a show you can watch and learn something. And it was always overly dramatic and about like, this kid smoked pot and ended up dead in a. It was like ridiculous. So this one was about a bad divorce and the
mom kidnapping and the parents from the dad and hiding.
So fucking great.
Yeah, it was hilarious. There was no humor at all.
Right.
I did do another after school special, but it was a Scholastic special. Those were on at like 7 p.m.
Right.
And that one was called My Mother the Witch. And that was that was literally set in Salem.
Right.
And it was so that was my start. But I mean
so you get this. You get this and it's 1985. You're 14, 15 years old. Wait, were you bat mitzvahed?
Yes. I know, but you know I'm a terrible.
I know, you're a terrible Jew. But
I was
did you have a lot of friends at your bat mitzvah?
Yes, because my school was small, so we pretty much...
If you say your school was small one more time...
But I think we pretty much invited everybody.
Okay.
But I remember there was a conflict, like if your bat mitzvah was the same day as somebody else's, you really saw where you stood because who went to Debbie's and who went to Tara's. Like that was a big...
Or if you had your bat mitzvah... And your mother was like, never gave any of us parties because it wasn't about the party.
Right.
So I had the most extravagant bat mitzvah. We had dinner at the synagogue before. And then dessert afterwards.
I had the least Jewish bat mitzvah party because I had square dancing at my bat mitzvah.
Oh my God.
I was a nerd. I really was.
We did, yeah, but I'm telling you, there's no fucking photos of my bat mitzvah because it was after sundown. So, like there's one photo of me in this orange dress and that was it. And then my sister had just dessert afterwards. I don't know, some big woman. I don't remember any. I just want to put the whole fucking thing out of my head.
Again.
No, I've read out of the Torah many times since. Sorry. But, my brother, he had his bar mitzvah, and then everyone came to the house afterwards for bagel and lox. Like, that was my parents. Those were my parents. Yeah. And, at the time, I hated it, but
it's better.
They were right. They were absolutely right.
It was about the...
Right. The thing. Okay. So, the event, the bar, whatever.
Yeah.
So, you're bat mitzvahed. So... You do this after school special.
Right.
And
I leave school to go do it and I have tutors.
Do you have a tutor?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I had.
For how long did you have to leave?
I think that one was a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
probably.
not bad.
But then I did a movie soon after.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
And so because I had Christine Taylor. I love her.
And beautiful.
She's the fucking greatest. Anyway, so Christine Taylor was on, and we're talking about not Jewish at all, married a Jew, but we were talking about how she got this commercial and everything, and then all the girls in high school turned on her, and she wasn't popular anymore. And then we were talking about she's like, no one cares, and like everyone wrote in like, oh my, because everyone remembers fucking high school because it shapes you.
Absolutely.
Because the world is fucking high school.
Yep.
Okay, so. After you did the movie of the week, what happened? And
I mean, it wasn't like I was. I mean, I was in like weird pajamas and bad hair.
Right.
I think people thought I was They thought I would be snobby,
right?
And so my parents and I overcompensated.
Right.
That was a big lesson that was in my household. Was like, don't get too big for your britches, and just because you're doing this does not make you more special than anyone else. But my mother was amazing. She also had kind of mixed messages. She was like, listen, you are more special, but let's just act like you're not more special.
I love her.
And also, she wasn't like, you're more special because you're doing an after school special. She was just like, you're awesome, and you shouldn't care what other people think, but also they're going to think that you're an asshole, so don't act like one. Like,
that's
be polite,
so great.
Be kind, and look what I'm doing. I'm helping kids. Like, what you're doing is not actually helping anybody, but you love it, and so
and you deserve to do it. You were very close with your mother.
I was very close with my mother, and being a kid actress actually keeps you closer to your mother.
Right.
I mean, if you
did she come with you to everything?
Always, and not just because I loved her, but because it was the rule. I mean, you need to have a guardian on set. And so my mother had stopped teaching at a proper school and she just consulted. She had individual private clients. So she was able to arrange her schedule. So she really I had two working parents, but it didn't feel like I had two working parents. My mother always made her schedule so that she would see clients and kids.
Right. So you spent a lot of time with her.
An almost unnatural amount of time, because at the time where teenagers would start to be fighting with their moms, and starting to want independence, first of all, I didn't fight with my mom, which is just, my daughter always points out that, I know you didn't, but like, I feel like there was some higher power or something going,
watching
your time
over.
is limited. I never felt like my time was limited with her, but looking back, I mean, what a gift that
you
did have this kind of intense time. And, you know, when I wasn't working, I would go to parties occasionally. Right. I really
liked hanging out with her.
And my mother was kind of a hippie.
Right.
And so she wasn't overprotective, but she'd say, well, what time do you think I should tell you to come home? And I'd be like, Mom. She'd go, no, I mean, it would probably be better for you if you knew you had to come. Because I was a neurotic kid.
What?
I know, hard to believe, because I'm so chill now.
Yeah.
I'm actually more chill now
than you were.
Yeah, because I mean, God, I've had so much trauma.
That at some point you go, I have no control over any of this shit.
Sometimes. And then other times when I'm looking at the nasty comments or things, and I'm going, why am I still doing this when I know that it's going to cause me pain?
Why do you do? I mean, I had to look up hate mail for my book, and I found it.
Hate mail for you?
Yeah. Because I'm writing a book about this, freedom of speech. And, they have every right. The fact that they have a platform is a whole other issue. But people are just so hateful. Hateful. And the world revolves around. All right, anyway, I want to go back to your mother. So what did she love to do?
She loved to go to the theater. We did go to the theater a lot growing up. And we would go to the TKTS line if it was just the two of us.
Right.
If it was the whole family, Good Noah and my dad, we would get tickets in advance. You know? But really, my mother and I would take a day and we'd go in and we'd stand on the line. And I remember seeing Chorus Line. And, we didn't have great seats. We'd get whatever we could get.
But you were with your mom.
I was with my mom, and I loved being with my mom. I think someone was asking me the other night what I miss. Is that a spoiler alert that my mom?
No, we're getting there.
Okay. But one of the things that was great about my mom was not a great cook. My mom did not have wonderful holiday traditions.
Right.
In fact, we didn't have a lot of traditions in my house. But riding in on the train with my mom to go on an audition or to go see a show, I just remember leaning against her and knowing that she has me. She's
safe. She made you feel safe,
and I could be
taken care of,
and I could be my worst self and my best self.
Right. Unconditional love.
Yeah. And it's hard to even put into words. And that kind of a physicality. And I'm not saying my mom was super touchy feely. We weren't always hugging, but just that thing of I
got your
literally,
back.
I'm going to lie my head against you and I can exhale and I remember when I was a little bit older, falling asleep on the train and kind of putting my head on and waking up, and I was, my head was on some strange person. And I was so embarrassed. It's kind of like when you're little and you grab your hand and it's not your mom's hand.
Yeah.
So
were you drooling though? That's an important.
Maybe.
Okay.
But she was also a person who, for me, from a very young age, I had a lot of different things going on. I was at Hebrew school. I was at going on auditions. I was doing community local kids theater, and I had our summer friends and our relatives. And
did you go to sleepaway camp?
I went to sleepaway camp for 2 weeks, and it was the most traumatic.
Oh my God, I hated it. I fucking hated it. I fucking hated it. I wanted to go home so bad.
I was a mess, and I made them come get me, and my poor children, I wouldn't let them go to sleepaway camp.
Oh, they got you. My mother wouldn't get us.
And then, they got me after 2 weeks. The letters that I wrote were so horrible. But I did spend 2 weeks, but it was not good. But then my kids, my daughter, when she was finally, I guess, 14, my brother, the good Noah, and my brother-in-law were running a camp they have
stutterers.
A theater troupe for a theater company for kids who stutter, and they have a summer camp. let her go to that summer camp.
And
Well, she doesn't stutter.
Right.
But
she started afterwards.
But it was a beautiful place to be. And,
Right.
and she was like, Mom, it's great, but really? And I said, well, your two uncles are there. I
Right.
don't know. I just felt.
Because you wanted her to have,
She convinced me that I really needed to make a change for the boys.
Right.
I have twin boys also.
Right.
And she said, people make really good friends at summer camp.
It's
a really
like a,
big thing.
for their life.
And so
Except for me.
And me. So I allowed my kids, but summer camp was not.
Oh, my kids fucking
for
loved
me.
it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Henry went to one that wasn't good, and I still to this day feel guilty because it was all Jappy kids. But we got a consultant
Wow.
came. No, they volunteered it. No, I met at some gig, and they were like, "I'll come," and met with us. This is the right camp for you, and it was so
not.
Jappy, Jap. Sorry, everyone who hates me for saying Jap. And we're not like that.
No.
So, but they went to another camp, Quebec, and and Judy Toll went to Quebec.
Oh, Judy Toll.
And one of the Broad City girls, not Alana.
Abby.
Abby went there. Okay, anyway.
Is
so-
it literally in Quebec?
No, it's KWEEBC, and it's in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
All right. So you then get Some Kind of Wonderful. Now, did you audition for this movie? This is a major movie. If you don't know this, look this movie up and watch it. Did you audition? Did
Yes.
they ask you to come in?
Absolutely.
And you had an agent, right?
I had an agent. I had a manager at that time. Did I have an agent? Yeah.
And your mother dealt with them.
Yes.
And your father
but
probably looked at all the
My
legal
dad-
stuff.
my dad did, but my father was interesting. When I would work, he would love it and be very proud. But whenever, I always took it very seriously. I teach actors sometimes, and I have kids who are like, I didn't get the part. I would be devastated. Like it's always been something that really
It's so personal.
I took really personally,
Yeah.
and I really wanted. Like I was. It wasn't even that I was ambitious to be famous. I loved
Right.
acting.
Right.
I really loved being on stage. I loved when I got a movie. It was so exciting. And so when I would get close on something,
Yeah.
I would be very upset. So I bring that up because my mother would say, it's all right, this is part of the deal. And my dad would say, she should stop. This is ridiculous. He hated seeing me.
You all stressed
in
out.
pain. But then he'd be the first to be like, oh my God, there's a chair with your name on it.
Right, right,
and
right.
the playbill. And
Right.
so he's always been a big fan, but my mom was kind of there for the actual shooting
Right,
and the
right,
auditions and everything. So with Some Kind of Wonderful, I was getting to that age. I was 16. So I was starting to go on some auditions by myself. I would take the train occasionally. And I had done a movie called 7 Minutes in Heaven. And
Yes.
and so the director at the time, and let me also just say for the young people, John Hughes, I don't even know who to compare it to.
Right.
At the time in the 80s, when we were growing up and I was in high school, Pretty in Pink was about to come out. The Breakfast Club had already come out. 16 Candles had come out. John Hughes was an institution. I mean, he was the biggest deal.
Right.
And when I got the script for Some Kind of Wonderful, it actually didn't have a cover on it. It's kind of like what they do now, where they
Right.
keep things secret. So I didn't know who wrote it, but it was a Paramount movie, and I knew it was big, and I loved it. It was really funny and smart. And I said, it seems like a John Hughes movie, but I wasn't that bright, I guess, so I didn't know. who
Right.
wrote
Yeah,
it.
you're so stupid.
But I did go. The director had seen 7 Minutes in Heaven, and so I had a little bit of an advantage, or just they
Right.
knew who I wasn't like a cold reading.
Right.
And I went in, and it was Martha Coolidge, who's a very good director.
Right.
And I met with her, and my mom was really excited because
Right. Did your mom go in these meetings with
she. Sometimes she'd carry my, the binder with
Right,
my
right.
8x10s.
But was she like, I'll go on commercial audition. It's like, how did it go? Like the kids walk out. How'd you say it? How did you say it? You didn't say it the way let's go. And I'm like, the kid doesn't want to be here, fucking Gypsy Rose Lee.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom was not like that at
Yeah.
all. And in fact, one of the things that drove her bananas was being in the waiting room because
Right, 'cause
there was a lot of, I'll never forget because it made my mom and I laugh
Right.
for years that we would be sitting there and there was another mom and her daughter, and we'd see the same people all the time. And she'd go, "Oh, have you heard anything about I want to go home?"
Right.
And my mother would, modestly say, "Well, actually, yes, Maddie
Booked
got the
it,
part." I don't even think she would use the expression booked it,
right.
which was very kid manager.
Right.
You booked it.
Yeah.
It's Shirley Grant. You booked it. But so my mother said, "Yeah, actually, Maddie got the part and she's going to do it next week." And their mom would go, "Oh, that's wonderful. They said Melissa was just too pretty." And I was sitting right there. I mean, that really happened.
What a cunt!
So,
Oh my God! It's so immature.
I know
They said Melissa was so
and to this day, I know exactly who that person is.
Oh, you know Melissa?
I know,
Is she working?
Yeah, no.
Is she pretty?
Yes. Well, you know what? She's gained some weight.
Oh,
I'm going to be
poor
honest.
Melissa.
But you know what? We're all pushing 50 now, so God bless Melissa. She's a lovely lady. But I'll never forget.
Is her mother around?
Her mother is still around.
Ugh.
She helps.
Well, they told Melissa.
Yeah, can you imagine the cat? Hey, listen, she was amazing. She was amazing, but we got all together. We got the team together, and she's just too pretty. She's
It was
just
distracting.
too pretty. I wanted to fuck her. I mean, I'm 33. But we can't do it because she would be molested on set. This week's episode of It's Judy's Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself. You can process and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it and you sit there and you wait, and then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome. All right, so
I told my mom, how well it went. She was excited, and then we didn't hear anything, and it was late spring at school, and my mother, I was doing a play. A play. The play was at the American Jewish Theater.
it was called the Front Tooth. No, go ahead.
No, I only did dental.
It was called Cavity.
Plays. No, it was called
Cavity.
It was called the Chopin
Gingivitis.
Playoffs.
Okay, the Chopin.
And it was an off-Broadway play, and because it was at the American Jewish Theater, and I was playing a shiksa. So, but
Right.
regardless, there were no shows on Friday nights.
Shabbat Shalom. Hey, all right. Yeah.
But my junior prom was on a Friday night, so I was allowed to go to junior prom.
Who'd you go with?
Tommy Kolodziński, was not a match.
What's he doing now?
I don't know.
He's an asshole. Go
He
ahead.
was fine.
Did he try to make out with or do anything?
Yes, but not with me.
Oh, all right.
with Melissa.
Melissa.
It actually was Melissa. It wasn't the same Melissa.
No,
but it was,
that's funny.
Everybody loved
Okay.
Melissa Gross at my school. She was the pretty one.
That's a great name, too.
Yeah, but it didn't matter.
Right.
It didn't matter. She was so pretty and kind of nice that nobody made fun of her. They made fun of me, and I didn't even have the name Gross. But anyway, so I went to my prom, and my mother's deal with me was, look, you can go to prom, but you can't go to this after prom.
Right,
you have
right,
a
right.
show. You have a Saturday show.
Night.
But still.
Before, not until
After
Shabbos is
sundown.
over.
So I had a Saturday night show, which was enough. And by the way, I was probably secretly very relieved to go. I would love to go to the cool
But I
after
have
parties,
to. I'm in a
but,
show,
you know.
so I'm not going to be able to make it.
So I did go to we all took the limousine into the city, and I think I had a White Russian. You know, that was like my big crazy. And then we came home, and everybody else went to a breakfast and then the beach. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I came home, and this is where my story gets not fun, but my mom had a stroke that morning, the morning after, that Saturday morning.
Just out of
14th.
nowhere.
It was out of nowhere to me. My family knew, my dad knew that my mom had skin cancer. My parents kept it very light and very like, we've got it under control. So to me, it came out of the blue. It was out of the blue. It was a shock. But looking
And how
back,
old were you when you
I was
knew?
16.
When she was diagnosed with skin
I was
cancer?
15 when she was
Melanoma.
diagnosed.
Okay.
Melanoma, but you know, everybody
Right.
had,
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
everybody, but it seemed
That's
okay.
what Judy Gold died of. Yeah.
It's
a horrible cancer.
So they thought they had gotten it actually, and this was a surprise.
Where was it?
And it had spread. It was in her neck, and then it
terrible.
spread. So this was the morning of, and she went into the hospital. And
Were you there when she had the stroke?
Yes.
You
Yes.
saw her have the stroke.
Basically, yeah, I was in.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was awful.
Oh.
And my mother was so smart and worked with people with brain injuries, and
Right.
she kind of was aware of what was happening, and it
Okay.
was just awful. So, and I had never seen my mom really, really scared, and
Right.
that was terrible. And then she went into the hospital, and I kept doing my play. I mean, it was a very crazy time. I went
Right.
and did the show that night.
Mhm.
It's kind of in keeping with what I did when
Right.
my most recent trauma. It's just kind of what I do. And even
Right.
my mother was like, you got to go to the theater,
Right, right.
you know, and I was like,
Such an
okay.
unselfish. Yeah.
I don't know. You know, we didn't have understudies. It was like, it
But
was
also, like, your
inconceivable
mother
that-
saying, no, you go
Oh,
on
yeah.
with your life. Yeah.
Well, that was very much my mother.
Yeah.
So I went to the theater, and that's another story because my playwright stuck his tongue down my throat. So that was not
Yes.
good. Yes.
Yes. We'll get to
Yes.
that.
So that was happening. Those two, the play, it was the last 2 days of the play. It was Saturday night, and then I think we had a Sunday, and then a Sunday
Now,
night.
did the playwright know what was going on
Yes,
with your
that
mother?
was his way of comforting me. He absolutely knew.
Should we say who that is?
Sure, it was Israel Horowitz. You know, the Me Too movement is an incredibly important, amazing thing. My story, I kept quiet for many reasons.
So many. I mean, when these guys say, you know, I have so many, when people find out I'm a comic, like cab drivers, like,
Yeah.
oh, with the Bill Cosby, why didn't they? And it's like, fuck you. Just go fuck
Yeah,
yourself.
It's so complicated.
Yeah.
And by the way, mine, you know, when everything came out with Harvey Weinstein, I felt even more guilty in some ways because
Right.
I actually loved Israel. I
Right.
really did. He was a mentor to me. So
Right.
that's another
Well,
story.
that's like the
but-
priest, and you know,
Yeah.
it's like you think these people are godly, and yeah,
And it's complicated.
Right.
And anyway, so that was going on, and I certainly wasn't about to go then tell my mother, who was,
Right.
you know, but that happened. But then I kind of honestly put that aside because who had time to deal with
Right.
that? And I went and was with my mother every day, who was at Sloan Kettering in intensive care, and it was not good.
so you would go to school, and then
I went to school, and then after school, my dad would drive me in, and I would sit with my mom. And then I stopped going to school because it became pretty. I mean, the whole time she was in the hospital actually was only 2 weeks before she died, so it was not a long time.
No way. So she had the stroke, and
Yeah.
So how was your father dealing with it?
During this time, we were all in kind of triage, like numbness. And at one point during this time when I was at the hospital, we didn't have cell phones. We had I don't even know if we had pagers. I remember having a thing where you could check your voicemail at home.
Yes,
and it would be like beep, 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 and it would rewind the machine and play your messages. And I got a message from the hospital payphone. Maddie, I know this is probably not going to happen, but you have a callback for some kind of wonderful. And it's today, you know, and I know you're in the city and don't feel like you need to go, but we wanted to tell you. So I go and I tell my mother, who's like ecstatic, you know, and she's like, go. And I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. You know, I wasn't prepared and I didn't really have the script, and it was Steve Jacobs, the casting director, who I still see sometimes. He's still casting. And I went to his office and it was just to go on tape because they wanted to show John Hughes, who was in LA, my tape. And even though I had met with the director. So it was just the audition was actually pretty uneventful. It was me waiting outside and then going in and being put on tape. And he was like, that was great. Goodbye. And you never know if you don't have a director or producer or anybody there. So I went back to the hospital and my mother said, you know, how did it go? And I said, first of all, it's a John Hughes movie. I found that out. And second of all, I got it. They told me right there that I got it.
No way.
I just lied because why not? And in the craziest of crazies, the night of my prom, my brother had a sleepover, so he wasn't home. So my parents had a date, and they went to see Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It had just opened.
Oh, wow.
And this is how popular John Hughes was. There was a preview for Some Kind of Wonderful, even though nobody had shot a day of it. There was just
say coming soon.
With a girl's hands, which was eventually going to be Mary Stuart Masterson. And it just said, coming next summer, Some Kind of Wonderful from John Hughes. And my mom said to my dad, Maddie auditioned for that. They liked her for that. I guess she didn't get it because there's the preview. Right. But so I was able to.
So you knew when you went back after the audition, well, she doesn't have much time left. I'm going to tell her I got this.
I didn't know how much time or what was going to happen, but why not? You know, who was going to know at this point? So I just said it went really well. And they basically said, I got it. I'm doing the movie. And so she was really happy. And then she got really bad. Like then she went into a coma, and then we didn't know how long it was going to be, and then she passed away, and then obviously I didn't think about anything. I mean, my whole world collapsed, and we were in deep despair and mourning, and it was June, so school was kind of over. And
do you hate June?
I get even when I'm having a great June, even when I almost forget. Because it was June 13th, I'll never forget, because it was Friday the 13th was my prom, and I do have a thing about Friday the 13th. And then I don't even know the exact date of my mom's death, but almost every June, even if I'm not thinking about it, it actually inhabits my body. Like I do get a little bit of my brother too, and my dad. So a few weeks after my mom died, I get a call saying, you have another call back for Some Kind of Wonderful. And I said, I've already gone on tape and I've met the director. Like, I was not this person. I was not a diva, but I was like,
but you were like, come on, my mother just died.
And I said that. And they said, that's exactly why they want to meet you. They're worried that you're going to be not okay. And I was like, of course I'm okay. Meanwhile, looking back, it's like, of course they wanted to see this 16-year-old girl whose mother just died. They wanted to like do a little once over. So I did go and I met John Hughes, which was kind of like meeting a rock star. For me, I loved his movies. It wasn't just that he was popular. I really loved them. And he was like, oh, you remind me of Molly Ringwald. And I was like, I do. And I was a kid actress, but I was still a really suburban little kid whose mom had just died. So I remember running down the street with my dad took me to that audition, and he hadn't taken me to almost anything. And we were just weeping after because he was like, Mom would be so excited. And because I had this very long talk with John Hughes.
Did they? No.
They did not tell me then. Then I had another callback with Michael Chinich, who was the producer. And then I got a call saying I got it. And we were...
Where were you when you got the call?
In my kitchen.
And it was your mom? I'm sorry.
Not my mom.
Your dad?
My dad, my brother, and me. And we had no plans for the summer. I mean, everything had... So suddenly it was my dad, my brother, and I'm trying to think, me or I, and I getting on a plane and going to Los Angeles and staying at a fancy hotel and shooting this big movie.
They all came with you?
They paid to get to their credit. They flew my dad and my brother every time. And I would go back and forth because I had the kind of part where I would shoot a little bit.
Right, and then go back.
leave. And it was my version of heaven. It was a complete escape.
Right.
And the best people. I met my friend Eric Stoltz, who, he wasn't my friend then.
Is he Jewish?
So not Jewish. But so Irish.
Yeah, but you're still friends.
We're really good friends.
Mhm.
And
you played his little sister.
I did play his little sister. And he became like a big brother, although I had a big crush on him, so that seems a little weird to say. And then the director got fired on my first day there. It was no longer Martha Coolidge. It was Howie Deutsch. And everyone freaked out and said, oh my God. And a lot of the people who had been hired were fired. It was a big. And I was this little 16-year-old going, well, I really hope I don't get fired. But also, my mom just died. Like, guys, this is just
seriously, who fucking cares?
Eric was very serious. He was very upset about his artistic, choices being questioned. And I was like, listen. God. So I was very young, but very old. It was a very strange time.
What's interesting is that, everything worked in your favor. And I mean, listen, we're going to take you away from all this, like the universe, whatever. We're going to take you away and you're going to become another character. You're going to work, and so it makes so much sense that after which will be in part 2, what happened with your current husband, that is where you would take it to the stage. It's just such a coping mechanism.
I mean, I did it in high school too, even before my mother died. When I would get a job, it would take me out of my life. It was a relief. I wouldn't have to deal with things. It gave me structure. It gave me an excuse to not do something I didn't want to do, which really helped me to not develop the skill of saying, I don't want to do that.
Right.
I gave myself rules, and I did this for a long time. I'd say I did this up until 4 years ago.
Right.
Well, if I'm doing this job, then I can say I don't want to have lunch with you.
Right.
But if I'm not, then I have to have lunch with you. Right. I mean, not you, Judy, but,
whatever.
Certain people. But yes, and school was hard for me, not necessarily academically, but just socially. So when I would get a job, it would just be like, okay. And it was a bit of a drug.
You could escape.
Yeah. So certainly when my mom died, I needed an escape. And this was like escape times 12. It was a really super, because it was physically away and it was a big deal. I mean, it was a big job. So then and it was a very weird time because I would shoot and I was truly happy shooting.
Right.
This is what people have a hard time understanding, even in my present life and in my present show that I'm doing about my life, which is I could actually laugh and be really, truly happy and on set and then go home at night and home to the hotel room and just sob.
Right.
And both those things were true.
Right.
I wasn't in denial. I was just able to compartmentalize.
Right. That's a good skill. What was it like walking back into your house after? That must have been.
It was really hard. And nothing felt, I just didn't feel like.
You must have, I would have cried. Like, so young. Then
the truth is, Jude, I got that movie. I came back to school. It was my senior year of high school. And pretty soon after I finished shooting that movie, and I think the movie they cut it together very quickly in those days because people were waiting for it. But I got another job and it was a TV series. So I didn't spend a lot of time in my house, actually.
Right.
By the time I got back and was going to school, I got cast on Mr. President, this TV series, and that also shot in LA. So I went back for pretty much the spring of my senior year of high school. I wasn't there.
How was the good Noah? He was only, 11,
Sweet
12?
boy. He was 11, turning 12. Yeah. His bar mitzvah was the saddest of the sad.
I can't even.
It's an interesting thing what age kids are and their disposition. I can't speak for Noah, but I will say that the way I see how we were and how we are even, I had a lot of why me, why my mom, where is God, life is unfair, this is awful.
Of course, yeah.
And my brother was just like, this is really sad. And it's not that he's a simple guy,
No.
but there's something about 11 and being Noah versus being 16 and being me.
Right.
So he's just not naturally neurotic, and I am. Way before my mother got sick.
Right. And did you feel like you had to protect Noah?
I did, and I still feel guilty that I didn't. Because I told my mother I would. Because I didn't protect Noah that well because I left.
Was working, yeah.
I went.
And how about your dad?
My dad was great. You know, it was that time too, and very few people were even divorced.
Right.
And those that were immediately calling my dad because he was, a hot
He's
commodity.
Hot, yeah.
And it was like, oh, he didn't even get divorced. He's got one kid who's basically out the door, and he's a lawyer. And he's a nice
and he's
guy.
Hot.
I wouldn't describe him as hot.
He's very handsome.
A lovely guy.
But did you, was it weird? Like,
it was awful.
He went out on a date or?
We were just talking about that the other night because weirdly, the woman that he went on his first date with, he didn't tell me he was going on a date. And my father used to play cards at the club. He belonged to a club. And he'd go play cards on Thursday nights.
Right.
And I knew how to reach him. Even when my mom was around, we knew we had the phone number of the locker room where they would play cards. So if she had a question or something happened or whatever. And after a parent dies, you just get really scared about everything. Right. So something happened and I wanted to tell my dad, and I was watching my brother, and I called. This was probably a year after. Mm-hmm. And I called the club and they said, oh, hi, Maddie. Your dad's not here. He never came tonight. And I was sure he was dead. I was sure he was dead in a car accident.
That's awful. And no cell phones, ladies and gentlemen.
No cell phones. And I was horrified and scared. And I may have even called the police. I don't know. But I certainly. And then I called back again. And I said, has he shown up? And one guy got on the phone and said, I won't do the impression because I'll get in trouble. But he said, your dad is out to dinner with a lady. And I said, all right, thank you. And I stayed up. And when my dad got home, I was ready to kill him. I was so angry. I was so relieved that he wasn't dead.
Right.
But I was so angry. Not even that. Well, I was angry he had had a date, but I was also just so sad and upset and
What
scared.
did he do?
He confessed after, and she reached out to my dad recently and said, I read about what's going on with Maddie and her show and her life. And I just wanted to remind you of this story. My dad told me the story. He said, when you were really little, you went to nursery school with Gail's kids. I said, I know. That's why I was so mad. I was so mad that my dad would even go on a date with someone who knew my mother. I thought that was not okay. But anyway, we were all kind of friendly in the same circle because we went to nursery school together. And back in the day, apparently her husband was arrested for stealing books from the library. And it wasn't an accident. And then stealing
things. Who the fuck steals books from the library? I mean,
someone
overdue.
Who has, a problem.
Okay,
there was some, and then stole other things. I don't even know to this day the whole, but I had never heard this. He got in trouble and it was, whatever it was embarrassing. It was in the papers. The paper, the town folk knew.
Right.
And she said to my dad the other day, and then ultimately reached out to me, your mother was one of the people that said, who cares what other people think? This is the father of your children. If he has a problem, you'll deal with it. If he doesn't have a problem and he's just a bad guy, then you'll figure that out. But just sit tight and it's going to be okay.
I love your mother.
Oh, I was completely, because I've gone through something not dissimilar in my life, and I've often wondered what my mother would say.
Of course.
And I believe
that was her talking to you right then.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That was really beautiful.
Don't forget to tune in next week to Just Kill Me Now.
It's Just Kill Me.
Oh. Don't forget to turn for part 2 on Just Kill Me.
No, it's not. It's
Just Kill Me.
No.
Judy Gold's Just Kill Me.
Kill me now.
Just kill me now.